Welcome back. So, in conclusion of these great teachings, I'll read you um, the third golden key over again, and then I'll bring my African commentary into it. Okay, very important. And I'll tell you a parents who have kids, and the way the African culture sees that. Okay. So on the third, I'll read it carefully. It's a very careful thing. This is my job. I'm the teacher. Okay, I'm transmitting Master Sing Yung's wisdom over to you. And I'm transmitting it carefully so you can get a full understanding of the wisdom that you need to understand. We want you to study wisdom wisely. Study wisdom wisely and get a full understanding of wisdom. This is the point. Master Sing Yung instructs the third golden key, right? Cherish our words when speaking. The Analects of Confucius state, a single statement can bring prosperity to a nation. A single statement can bring disaster to a nation. If something is well spoken, it can bring others joy, like a lotus blossoming from the tongue. If something is not said properly, it kills others' hope, like swords and knives. Okay. The renowned Chinese strategist Sun Tzu once said, offering others helpful words is as precious as gold. And I instructed you to write that down, remember. Offering others helpful words is as precious as gold. I'm just about to offer you helpful words now from Master Sing Yung's teaching of Buddhism and from the African side. I'm going to throw in an African proverb to interpret these teachings. I really want you to get that African proverb very well because I'm an African person who has studied Buddhism. I'm studying Buddhism as an African. I remember my grandfather's instruction, which must have come from my great-grandfather. I've heard the elders, the grandees, grandfather, grandmother. I even saw my great-grandmother, my mother's grandmother. And so all these personalities in my lives are important. These are my gods and my goddesses, my grandparents. See, Buddhism is mixed with Confucianism, the worship of ancestors, the importance of ancestors. Master Sing Yung always talks about Confucius. Actually, he's talking about Confucius right now. This third verse, Master Sing Yung is quoting Confucius on this very third golden key. The Analects of Confucius says, if you go back a bit to read this third verse. So Buddhism, and the master is talking about Confucius, which is Confucianism. So right from the beginning of Buddhism in China, it was mixed with Confucius. It's always been like a twin teaching, twin religious teaching. Buddhism was all because Chinese government authorities that brought Buddhism, the Buddhist school from India, they had the objective of bringing the Buddhist school into China to compare it with Confucianism, which was already in China. So Buddhism has always been twinned with Confucianism since its beginning. So many Chinese teachers of Buddhism, you always hear them talking about Confucius, just like this very third verse where Master Sing Yung is talking about Confucius. So Buddhism was always taught together with Confucianism. So it became like painting of a building, beautifies the building. Buddhism came and refined Confucianism and beautified it and brought out the best of both teachings. It's like a husband and wife. It brings out the best of both in their children. My dad and my mom gave birth to me. Okay, so this is important. Concluding it, offering others helpful words is as precious as gold. Yes, and I'm telling you that now the helpful words here is the African proverbs I'm bringing in as precious as gold to bring you a good understanding. It will leave you with an excellent understanding of what Master Sing Yung is teaching, because Master Sing Yung is a Chinese master. Christopher Aburime is an African American teacher, an African. This is an Africanized Buddhism. An African teacher is teaching Buddhism with an African perspective. So I'm going to use an African wisdom in resolving a Buddhist teaching, which could easily be controversial. People say, no, Buddhists are people who are known not to talk. So Buddhists should not talk. And I'm saying that's wrong. I'm quickly correcting that point. That's why I'm bringing the African aspect to quickly correct it. Buddhists must talk. It's like saying that parents who have children should not talk. So if you have a toddler, a 2-year, 3-year-old, you don't talk, how is he going to develop language? You have to talk to your child. A father has a child and a mother has a child. Why do you have kids if you're not going to talk? Parents must talk. If you don't talk to your child is not going to know the language. It's going to be saying something, whatever is in the spiritual realm. He cannot speak meaningful words. So when the child starts blabbing at 2 or 3, the mother and the father begin to polish the language for the child. They are the first teachers of the child. They start giving it instructions in the language. And he starts repeating the words of the language after the parents. I am the parent teaching the younger generations Buddhism in Nigeria. So if I say I'm not going to talk because talking is too much, I'm not going to talk, how are the Nigerians going to learn Buddhism? You have to learn from what you remember me saying. Years from now when I'm already gone and departed, I'm a 50-year-old, I've already lived half of my life. Many Nigerians who are excited about Buddhism right now are under 20. Right? A 30-year good gap. Many Nigerians coming up to Buddhism right now just about 10 or 15 will be so excited at the teachings. So if I keep quiet and say, okay, I'm not going to talk because Buddhists are so quiet, they don't talk, how does the 15-year-old, the 20-year-old Nigerian person learn Buddhism? So the African proverb says, the elder must talk. It is the duty of the elder to talk. Because it's an elder. And it is the duty of the child to listen. The elder is the mouth. The younger is the ear. When we were children, my late grandfather, I had to listen to him. My great-grandmother, late great-grandmother, I had to listen to her. My late grandmother on my dad's side, I had to listen. I still have a grandmother. It's above 100. My mom's mom is still alive. It's my only surviving grandparent. I'm 50. So, as elder, I'm an African elder. It is our responsibility. We must talk so that those who are 20 and 25 will learn. It is my duty to talk. The teacher in class, the professor must talk, and then the student must learn. If the professor does not talk, the professor is dumb, then the student can't learn. So it's a very, very tricky thing. So we're trying to get you to understand the responsibilities. I don't like talking myself. As a teacher with a great responsibility, I must instruct. It is my duty to instruct. I have to instruct, whether I like it or not. And it is the duty of the young Nigerians coming to learn Buddhism to follow. Oh, Christopher Aburime said, oh, that professor was a great teacher. Oh, the master was great. He was teaching about a Chinese master called Master Singyun. Oh, we went and learned about Master Singyun. He's a great teacher. Master Singyun was talking about Buddha. Oh, Buddha is a mountain of a man. All that is coming because I instructed you. And you loved my teachings. If I was dumb, I couldn't speak. I couldn't defend knowledge, defend what I know, defend wisdom, stand and teach. Then the younger, where does the younger African, they'll still be in the churches ringing the bells. Jesus' name. Oh, Allahu Akbar. That was all that Nigerians were exposed to. So that's what they're expected to be doing. Until a Nigerian said, no. Christopher Aburime said, no. In Jesus' name is good, but it's not enough. Allahu Akbar is good, but it's not enough. Christianity is good, but Christianity is not enough. Christianity cannot solve the problems of the world alone. It's not enough to do so. Islam is good, but Islam is not enough. Islam can't solve the problems of the world. It's not sufficient to do so. So we have Hinduism, we have Buddhism, we have other great teachings. And you must study all these things and make your choice in order to solve the problems of the world. It's Christianity and Islam and Hinduism and Buddhism and Judaism and Jainism and Sikhism and Zoroastrianism and all the others that make the world of 7 billion people. It's not Christianity alone. It's not Islam alone. There is Hinduism. There is Buddhism. They have billions of followers as well. And all these great teachings is what makes the world. And I gave example with engineering. It's not just civil engineering and building engineering or mechanical engineering that makes up faculty of engineering. It's civil engineering, it's building engineering, structural engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, electronics engineering, computer engineering when the computers came out. There's even software engineering now. See? All these are important. They all have their graduates and their researchers and their professors, and each is important. Okay? So I want the younger generation to learn that. Now, let me conclude this great aspect. Buddhism also advocates sealing our mouth and hiding our tongue is the first step in cultivation. We make mistakes if we talk too much, for troubles come from the mouth. Therefore, we have to be careful with every word we speak. To be ethical with our speech is as important. It's an important cultivation in life. And I said, yes, you have to know the balance. There's a time to eat and there's a time to fast. There's a time for everything, right? There's a time to wake. There's a time to sleep. There's a time to work. There's a time to rest. You balance them. There's a time to talk. There's a time to meditate silently. I love my quiet. I enjoy my peace of mind. But when it comes to Buddhism, somebody's going to have to do this tough work that I'm doing. If I don't stand in this place and say Nigerians must learn Buddhism, I'm going to spend my lifetime as the first Nigerian authority to teach Buddhism. Many ears right now are deaf, and I don't mind. That did not stop me. I will teach it because there are a few people who are coming up to learn them. A few people always encourage me and say, go on, teacher, teach this great teaching. And there are many Nigerians who are coming to learn it. It's a beautiful teaching. All the fights that the Christians and the Muslims fight and kill themselves all the time in Nigeria, this very Buddhism is going to help resolve the problem in the future. A lot of Christians and Muslims, they've not learned the lessons. They keep fighting every time. Is that the solution of the problems of the world? No. You can't do better than fighting. What they need to do is meditation. They need to practice more meditation. Christianity needs to practice meditation. Islam, they need to be more contemplative. The solution is not to fight with your brother. The solution is to retire to yourself and meditate. So we need more contemplative thinkers, more divine, more affinity to divinity, more attraction to the divine, right? More meditation. The job I'm doing is hard work, right? Somebody has to do the hard work that I'm doing. If all the Nigerians were cowards and they were all afraid to study Buddhism and nobody was confident, nobody was man enough to stand in my place and say, look, I'm going to teach Buddhism. I'm going to talk about Buddhism. Nigerians are not yet ready to listen to Buddhism, but I'm going to talk about it because I'm not a coward. I'm going to talk about a field of study to people so that other people can learn them. Then nobody would learn it, right? We are all chickens. We are to chicken out. We are only Christians and Muslims to be saved. That doesn't solve the problem at all. So there are people who have to stand and say, no, we have to teach the teachings. We are not dumb people. We speak. We have to tell people how to meditate. This third chapter is very complex. It's true that we have to learn to practice meditation quietly. But when it comes to the difficult position of Christopher Aburime as a professor, as an authority of knowledge, as the first Buddhist in Nigeria, has that difficult responsibility. Christopher Aburime must teach. So in Esan, I'm going to recite what my grandfather and my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother said when I was young. Abata oleogbowane. Ata abaho olegboha. That's the proverb I want you to use in analyzing this aspect so you can get a beautiful understanding of what Master Singyung is saying. I understand it. It's only difficult to transmit. It's like saying people should shut up and that knowledge is to be automatic. No, people know. No, Master Singyung speaks all the time. All the Buddhists speak. We are not dummies. Master Singyung is not saying we should shut up. Buddha didn't say we should shut up. Master Singyung didn't say so. So we just want people to understand that. Okay? Abata ogbowane means refraining from speech is what kills the elder. That's where the elder fails in his responsibility. Ata abahon legboha means when the elder has done his job and spoken, and the child does not learn, that's what gets the child. That's what kills the child. That's the fault of the child. So as an elder, as a Nigerian elder, you look carefully, you can see my gray hair. At 50, my responsibility, having learned Buddhism, is to teach the next generation after me, those who are 20, who are interested in Buddhism. I have the difficult responsibility to impart knowledge and wisdom. I can't be dummy. I can't be dumb. I must speak so that the generation will learn. The father and the mother who have 2 children at home or 3 must teach the language to the kids. Must teach morality to the parents. Must teach their children. They must say, hey, don't break the glass. Hey. You have a 2-3-year-old toddler at home, a little baby. You have to talk. This is what African proverb is saying. So if the dad and the mom sit and their little baby, 3-year-old or 2, and you are not going to talk, you have to. You have no choice because you are a parent. So that's what our proverb is saying. Okay? So you have to understand what Master Singyung is saying with wisdom. That's why I said you have to study wisdom wisely. You can't always go literally. Oh, Buddha says we all should keep quiet. No, Master Singyung says we all should shut up. You are misconstrued. You are not getting it right. So this is the tricks of intelligence. Sometimes it's tricky. The mathematics puzzles, they say there are no right and wrong answers. There are some questions that have no right and wrong answers. Because it's tricky. Very tricky. These are the kind of verses. You bring the verse. What shall we do? What are the right answers? And what there are no right answers, there are no wrong answers. We have the responsibility to teach. A professor must instruct his students in class. The student must listen to the professor's instructions if he's going to pass the examination. Okay? So it's a double-edged sword. It's very difficult. You have to pick the wisdom as the wisdom is. Okay? So there is no conclusion to that. I'm not going to say, oh, so the conclusion of it is this. No. You have to speak and you don't have to speak. It's both. We have the responsibility to do both. We have the responsibility to speak and instruct, and we have the responsibility to be quiet and meditate. And you have to use your discretion to know when to do both. This is my instruction. This is what I want the children and the next generation to remember. Christopher Aburime, the elder, said. As an instructor, I'm teaching you to do both. There is a time you have to speak and instruct, as I'm speaking and instructing now. It's my responsibility. If I don't speak and instruct, Nigerians cannot learn Buddhism if no Nigerian teacher teaches Buddhism. So Christopher Aburime had to step out and teach Buddhism as a Nigerian. I know there were no Nigerian Buddhists ever teaching. I stepped out, take that position to instruct it, knowing that Another Nigerian is going to pick it up. Many other Nigerians are going to pick it up, and then it will flow. The instruction, people start this. They know it's a beautiful teaching. Many people are going to pick it up. It's a nice teaching. Okay, so I had to step out and defend Buddhism. Buddhism is a brilliant teaching. It's a beautiful teaching. Folks, it's a good thing to know. And then now people will can say, yeah, let's find out if it's really true. And then they find out it's true. Oh boy, it's beautiful. And you can blend it with Christianity. You can blend it with Islam. See, it blends. When you got to China, it blended with Confucianism. Buddhism mostly, it never stood. When you go to Japan, it blended with Shintoism. Okay. 4, cherish our connections with people. Master Singyung says, cherish our connections with people. As the saying goes, we meet because we have a karmic connection. We meet because we have a karmic connection. It's already in the karma for people to meet. It doesn't happen by accident. It's already in the karma. Even if we meet our family, friends, co-workers, or strangers only once, we should cherish our connection with them in the here and now. We should offer them a kind word, a smile, and an assistance. Appreciating every small connection and condition we have with people is the wonderful recipe for dealing with the world. Brilliant teachings of the Master. Now, our Grandmaster Singyung summarizes all of this. After everything all said and done, you have to see brilliant. You see, it shows how brilliant our Master is. He summarizes. And that idea of Master Singyung actually comes from the Buddha himself. When the Buddha finished all the teachings of Buddhism, he summarized everything into what is called the Dhammapada Sutra. The Dhammapada Sutra summarizes everything about Buddhism in a nutshell. 423 verses. I have authored one. I've published Dhammapada. I've translated it to Esan language. That was the first Buddhist writing that was translated into African language. I achieved that decades ago. I took the sutra and translated it into African language, Esan language. Okay, that was the first time anything in Buddhism was translated into African language. There was no Buddhist literature in African language. My Dhammapada was the first. I did that decades ago in Boston, okay, about 20 years ago. So I translated it. So now you have a Buddhist, the Buddhist Dhammapada is translated into Esan. It's published. If you type Dhammapada, just go to Google and type Dhammapada by Christopher Aburime. So it will show you my Dhammapada online. It's in English, it's in Chinese, and it's in Esan language. Okay. So that Dhammapada is a summary of the whole Buddhist thought. The Buddha was that intelligent, so intelligent. That's what Master Singyung just did. After everything, because the sutras, the Buddha is so mighty in intelligence. The Tripitakas, his whole work is like 3 world libraries put together. That's why it's called Tripitakas, 3 baskets. Sutras upon sutras upon sutras upon, right? So after all said and done, all the sutras, all the teachings of the Buddha summarized in a nutshell in 423, I dare say, golden verses. Okay, if I can use my golden again. 423 golden verses of the Dhammapada. Okay, so I did translate those 423 verses into English and into Esan. There's already English verses, but I then translated from English to Esan. So I did an English translation for myself, and then I did an Esan translation. I did both and published them. So we have it in English, in Chinese, and in Esan language. Okay, I did that work. You can see on Google. Just Google my name and Google Dhammapada, and it shows you. So you can download it. It's free online. I don't charge anybody anything. A lot of Buddhist literature is all free. Okay. So Master Singyung is doing just what the Buddha did. That shows you that Master Singyung is a Buddha. He's an enlightened Buddhist teacher. He knows how to instruct us. When he finishes, and this is common in all his teachings, when he finishes his teachings, he always summarizes so that you get the point. We don't go astray. Master Singyung is going to tell you every time he does this teaching, at the end, he always makes the point clear. That's what the Buddha did in Dhammapada. So people are not confused. What is Buddhism? Where we have Diamond Sutra, we have Lotus Sutra, all these sutras, so many discourses. We don't know what Buddha is saying anymore. We are confused. No. He summarizes. He summarizes. So Dhammapada summarizes all the teachings into one. We know what the Buddha is saying. The Buddha wants it to be like this. It's clear. Dhammapada, very concise summary of Buddhism. That's what Master Singyung is doing. I'm just trying to introduce you to the last paragraph. And every time I teach you any wisdom from Master Singyung, always take a note. This is how it always ends. It always ends with a summary. Master Singyung did that brilliant thing. He always does exactly what the Buddha did and summarizes what he's saying. So at the end, you know precisely what the point of that teaching is. Okay? So the point here is summarized as follows. This is what we must remember at the end. Our fortune and merit are like deposits in the bank. We should cherish what we have and not use them recklessly or keep using them without making further deposits. Otherwise, the day will come when all is gone. We will gain fortune and merit only if we cherish and cultivate them. This is the summary. Easy. So it summarizes everything. In a nutshell, this is what Master Singyung is talking about. And I leave you to contemplate and meditate on that. Namo Amitofo.